Hey guys, tonight we are traveling back to the Golden Empire on the banks of the Nile. A world of divine kings, monumental temples, and a deep, abiding belief in the power of magic. We are going to ancient Egypt during the height of the New Kingdom to experience the life of a man who has it all: success, respect, and a bright future. But in a land where envy can be a weapon and the names of dead gods hold immense power, success can be a dangerous thing. We are going to explore why it really sucked to be the victim of a pharaoh's curse. Now, for our little reality check. You might think a pharaoh's curse is all about dusty tombs, intrepid archaeologists, and spooky movie magic. But for the ancient Egyptians themselves, curses were a very real and practical part of daily life. Cursing a rival in a business dispute or political squabble was their version of filing a strongly worded complaint, but with a great deal more magical menace and the potential for invoking some very powerful, very dead kings. You wouldn't just get a letter from their lawyer, you'd get a plague of scorpions. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Your support is the magic that builds these temples of history. And as always, I love seeing where in the world you're all joining me from. So please drop your city and local time down in the comments below. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your world is drenched in a brilliant, unforgiving sunlight. The air in Thebes, the great capital of Upper Egypt, is dry and hot, carrying the eternal scent of the desert sands that surround you, the rich, fertile smell of the Nile's black silt, and the heady aroma of lotus blossoms and incense that drifts from the temple precincts. You are a man of consequence in this city. Your name is known in the court of Pharaoh himself, Rameses the Great. You are a royal scribe and master of works, an architect of the gods. Your life is a good one. You live in a spacious villa in the eastern part of the city. The side of the living, it is built of clean, whitewashed mud brick, with a high wall that encloses a private courtyard, in the center of which is a small, refreshing pool shaded by a palm tree. Your walls are painted with vibrant scenes of hunting in the marshes and peaceful family life. You have servants to bring you cool beer and fresh bread. You have made your mark. Your skill is in reading, writing, and planning. In a world where literacy is a rare gift, it is the key to power. You can read the ancient hieroglyphs. You can draft a legal contract in the swift cursive of hieratic script. And most importantly, you can draw the great plans for the monuments that honor the gods and Pharaoh. As an architect for Pharaoh, you get to build magnificent temples that will last for eternity. The downside is that if your measurements are off by even a finger's breadth, your eternal legacy will be a very large, very crooked pile of rocks. Your days are spent between your cool, quiet study and the hot, noisy construction sites. You oversee hundreds of workers. Your authority absolute. You are respected. You are prosperous. And your future has never looked brighter. Today is the greatest day of your life. You have been summoned from your work overseeing the construction of a new pylon at the great temple of Karnak, the earthly home of the king of the gods, Amun-Ra. You stand now in the audience chamber of Pharaoh's chief vizier. He has just given you news that makes your heart pound in your chest. Pharaoh has approved your plans for a new series of chapels dedicated to his own glory, his Ka, his eternal spirit, and he has appointed you, over all the other, older, more experienced architects, to be the master of works for the entire project. It is a commission of immense prestige, one that will ensure your name is remembered for all time. You return to your villa in a daze of triumph to celebrate your good fortune. You host a great feast. Your courtyard is filled with your friends, family, and colleagues. Servants move through the crowd, their trays laden with roasted duck, piles of figs and dates, and dozens of small cakes sweetened with honey. The two staples of Egyptian life flow freely: bread and beer. There are dozens of kinds of bread, from simple, flat loaves to elaborate, sweet pastries, and the beer is thick, nutritious, and plentiful. Getting paid in bread and beer, as many laborers are, is great. Until you realize your savings plan consists of a pile of stale loaves and a very large hangover. The mood is joyful. Your friends clap you on the back. Your family looks at you with immense pride. But as you look around the torchlit courtyard, you see one face that is not smiling. It is the face of Pentu. Pentu is the chief architect you have been working under. A man 20 years your senior. He is a master of his craft. But his methods are old, his ideas conservative. He had submitted his own, far less ambitious. Plans for the chapels. Pharaoh rejected them in favor of yours. You knew he would be displeased, but the look in his eyes tonight is more than displeasure. It is a cold, hard, bitter knot of pure envy. He approaches you, a cup of wine in his hand. "My young protege," he says, his voice a silky purr that doesn't match the venom in his eyes. "We must all drink a toast to the new master of works, to his youthful ambition. May the gods grant him the wisdom to see his grand designs through to completion without any unforeseen complications." The toast is a perfectly crafted insult, a public questioning of your ability, wrapped in the guise of a compliment. The small circle of scribes around you falls silent. You simply nod, thank him for his good wishes, and turn away. Your own triumph too great to be soured by his bitterness. Pentu does not stay long. He drains his cup of wine, places it on a table with a sharp click, and departs into the night. A silent, brooding shadow leaving his own party. Your closest friend, a fellow scribe named Accompany, watches him go. "Be careful of that one," Accompany murmurs to you. His heart is heavy with jealousy, and a jealous heart in this city is a dangerous thing. You laugh it off. His pride is wounded, that's all. He will get over it. But Accompany does not smile. "Some men do not get over such things," he says quietly. "They seek other remedies." You dismiss his warning. Tonight, you feel invincible. You are the chosen architect of Pharaoh. You are favored by the gods. What harm can the bitterness of one old man do to you? The feast continues late into the night when the last guest has departed. You walk to your study, the plans for your great project, the chapels of the living God. Ramses are laid out on a large wooden table. You look at them, your heart swelling with pride. You will create something that will stand for 1,000 years. Your name will be carved into its stones. You look out the open window of your study. The air is cool and still. Across the dark, sleeping river, on the west bank, you can see the faint outlines of the great cliffs that house the tombs of the pharaohs. The Valley of the Kings. It is the land of the dead, a place of immense and slumbering power. You look towards it without a single thought of fear or foreboding. It is just a part of your world, a distant landscape under the stars. You do not know that your rival, Pentu, is at this very moment making his way not home, but to a small, forgotten shrine near that necropolis. A shrine dedicated to a long-dead, angry king. You do not know that he carries with him a clay figurine crudely shaped in your image, and a papyrus inscribed with your name. You do not know that he is preparing to whisper your name in a curse, invoking the power of a dead pharaoh to shatter your perfect life into 1,000 pieces. You stand in your study, at the absolute pinnacle of your life, bathed in the cool Egyptian moonlight, and you feel nothing but the promise of a golden future. The morning after your celebratory feast dawns bright and clear, full of promise. You are at the great temple complex of Karnak, the earthly domain of Amun-Ra, the sun shining hot on your shoulders. The air hums with the energy of 1,000 workers. You are in your element, directing the foreman, reviewing the plans drawn on papyrus. your mind sharp and your heart full of the glorious purpose of your work. You are building for a god, for Pharaoh, for eternity. This feeling of blissful purpose lasts for 3 days. On the 4th day, the first shadow falls. Your friend Accompany, the scribe who had warned you of Pentu's jealousy, seeks you out at the construction site. His face is pale, his usual cheerful demeanor gone, replaced by a look of grave concern. He pulls you aside, into the shade of a half-finished pylon. "I have ill news," he says, his voice a low, urgent whisper. "My cousin is a guard at the necropolis on the west bank. He was on watch 2 nights ago, the night of your feast. He saw something. Accompany explains that his cousin saw a lone figure moving near one of the old, forgotten shrines at the edge of the Valley of the Queens. It is a place most people shun, a small temple dedicated to a pharaoh from a much older dynasty, a king remembered not for his greatness, but for his cruelty and his unhappy death. It is a place of bad reputation, where dark magic is sometimes rumored to be practiced. The figure the guard saw, Accompany tells you, was your old master. Pentu, he was not there to pray for his ancestors." Accompany continues, his eyes dark with meaning. "My cousin saw him digging in the sand by the shrine's wall, burying something. He was muttering to himself, his voice like a snake's hiss in the darkness. A cold knot forms in your stomach. You try to dismiss it. Pentu is a bitter old man. Perhaps he was making an offering, seeking solace for his wounded pride. There is more." Accompany says. He reaches into a fold of his linen robe and pulls out a small object. It is a shard of fired clay, crudely shaped. As he presses it into your palm, you realize it is the broken-off arm of a small figurine, and wrapped around the wrist of the tiny clay arm is a single thread, pulled from a blue and white patterned fabric. Your blood runs cold. The pattern is distinctive. It is the pattern of the new ceremonial robe you were wearing at your feast. The world seems to tilt on its axis. The sounds of the construction site, the chipping of chisels, the shouts of the workers fade into a distant, meaningless roar. The bright sunlight feels suddenly cold. It is not just a suspicion. It is a certainty. This is the evidence of a curse. Congratulations on your big promotion. As a bonus, you've also won an all-expenses-paid curse from your angriest rival, complete with bad luck, sleepless nights, and the invoked wrath of a grumpy dead king. You leave the work site, your mind in a turmoil. You tell your foreman you are unwell, an excuse that feels terrifyingly close to the truth. You go to a small shrine of Thoth, the ibis-headed god of scribes, wisdom, and magic, seeking not solace, but answers. You find an old priest, a man who has spent his life reading the sacred texts, and for a substantial offering to the temple. You tell him what you have learned. The priest listens, his wrinkled face impassive. What you describe as a potent and wicked act. He says when you are finished, to curse a man in one's own heart is one thing, but to perform the ritual, to create the effigy, to write the name, and to invoke the spirit of a restless king, that is a great and dangerous evil. He explains the terrible logic of the magic your rival has used. The clay figurine, he tells you, is your effigy, a substitute for your body, by wrapping it in a thread from your own clothes. Pentu has magically linked it directly to you. Any harm done to the figurine will befall you. The burying of the object in the unhallowed ground of the necropolis is an act of consigning you to the underworld, a premature burial of your life force, and the invocation is the most dangerous part. The priest says gravely, to call upon the ka of a dead pharaoh is to summon a powerful and unpredictable weapon. The spirit of a great king is strong, and the spirit of an unhappy king is vengeful. Pentu has not just wished you ill, he has hired a divine assassin to carry out the work. You ask the priest what you can expect. This will not be a swift blow, he says. shaking his head. A curse of this nature is a slow poison. It will unravel your life. Thread by thread, it will begin with your work. Your calculations will be wrong. Your measurements will be off. Small accidents will plague your sight. The respect of your workers will turn to doubt. Then it will attack your body. A lingering sickness. A wasting of the limbs. A clouding of the mind. And it will attack your good fortune. Your rent. Your name. Your patrons will turn their faces from you. It will continue until you are left with nothing. The ultimate goal of such a curse, he adds, his voice dropping to a whisper, is to bring about your second death to ensure that when you die in this world, your name is so disgraced and your spirit so weakened that you are utterly annihilated in the next. Erased from existence for all eternity, you leave the temple, your heart a cold stone in your chest. The world, which only yesterday felt like a place of order and opportunity, now seems alive with hostile, invisible forces. Every shadow looks menacing. Every whispered conversation sounds like it is about you. The new knowledge poisons your work. The next day, you return to the construction site at Karnak, determined to ignore the curse, to prove its powerlessness through your own diligence. But the seed of doubt has been planted. You check your own calculations on a papyrus scroll 3 times, then 4, no longer trusting your own mind. You watch your workers, and you imagine you see them whispering about you, mocking your authority. Then, the first concrete sign appears, a small but significant accident. A team of workers is hoisting a large sandstone block into place. You watch, your stomach tight with a new anxiety. Suddenly, with a great crack, one of the thick ropes snaps, the block tips, slides, and crashes to the ground, shattering into a dozen pieces. No one is hurt, but the block is ruined, and a week's work is lost. The foreman rushes to you, his face ashen. Master, the rope was new. I inspected it myself. I do not understand how this could have happened. But you do. Or you think you do. You look at the shattered stone, and you see not an accident, but the hand of a vengeful Pharaoh. You lash out at the foreman, your voice sharp with fear and anger. Your inspection was inadequate. You have been careless. The cost of this block will come from your wages. The foreman stares at you, shocked by your injustice. The workers around you fall silent, their faces a mixture of fear and a new, wary resentment. Your confidence, the easy authority that was your greatest asset, has vanished, replaced by the brittle anger of a man who feels himself losing control. Is that scaffolding collapsing because of a divine curse? Or because you were so busy worrying about the divine curse that you forgot to check the ropes? The end result is the same, a very large, very fallen pile of rocks. And it's your fault either way. That evening, you sit alone in your study. The beautiful, precise plans for your great project are spread out on the table before you. But they no longer fill you with pride. They are a map of your own impending failure, and every line, every measurement, seems like a potential weakness. A place where the curse might strike next. You look out your window. The sun is setting, and its last rays are catching the peaks of the great cliffs on the west bank, the land of the dead. It looks like the necropolis is on fire. You think of Pentu in the darkness, whispering your name, burying your effigy in the sand. You think of the restless, angry king he has awakened, the golden age of your life, which had dawned so brilliantly just a few days ago, is over. The knowledge of the curse is a venom that has already entered your bloodstream. The world is no longer a place of bright possibilities, but a shadowland filled with unseen enemies and a creeping, inexorable doom. In the days following the accident at the temple site, you try to regain your footing. You tell yourself it was a simple mishap, a frayed rope, a moment of carelessness. You try to project an aura of calm authority to your workers, to act as though nothing is amiss. but it is a hollow performance. The knowledge of the curse is a splinter in your mind, and every small event now presses upon it, sending fresh waves of pain and doubt through you. The whispers of misfortune begin. They are subtle at first, a series of unfortunate events that, taken individually, could be dismissed as coincidence or simple bad luck. But together, they begin to form a terrifying, undeniable pattern. Your great project, once a source of immense pride, becomes a source of constant frustration. A shipment of the finest cedar wood, brought all the way from the forests of Lebanon for the sacred doors of the chapels, arrives at the docks. You are there to inspect it. But when the workers unstack the great timbers, you find that much of the wood deep within the pile is afflicted with rot, a damp, crumbling sickness that renders it useless. The merchant who sold it to you swears on the name of Osiris that it was perfect when it left his port. The foreman of the ship that carried it swears it was stored properly. There is no one to blame. It is simply bad fortune. But as you look at the worthless, decaying wood, you can almost hear the dried laughter of a long-dead king. You suspect your rival's curse, but you can't exactly file an official complaint with the magistrate that reads, "My wood has been afflicted by black magic." The curse follows you from the worksite into your office, your personal sanctuary of order and reason. You spend a week working on a complex series of calculations for the alignment of the new chapels with the path of the sun during the winter solstice. It is a task that requires immense skill in both mathematics and astronomy. You check your work, drawn out on a large sheet of papyrus, again and again. But when you submit the plans to the temple priest for their approval, a junior scribe, a boy barely old enough to grow a beard, discovers a small but critical error in your geometry. An error that, if it had not been caught, would have caused the solstice light to miss its mark. A deeply unlucky and embarrassing failure. The priests are gracious, but the humiliation stings. You, the master of works, corrected by an apprentice. Your own mind, your greatest asset, is betraying you. This self-doubt is the most insidious part of the curse. You, who once moved with the easy confidence of a master, now second-guess every decision. You used to be a brilliant architect. Now you spend an hour trying to add two numbers together because you're worried a demon might have magically swapped them around on the papyrus. Your productivity has taken a significant hit. The workers on the site sense your hesitation, your new anxious energy, your authority. Once unquestioned, begins to erode. They become sullen. Their work becomes sloppy. Minor accidents increase. A stonemason drops his chisel, shattering a paving stone. A painter mixes a batch of blue paint incorrectly, turning it a muddy gray. Each small failure is another crack in the foundation of your reputation. The whispers of misfortune follow you home. The curse is not content to ruin your professional life. It begins to poison your personal peace as well. You cannot sleep. You lie on your comfortable bed, but your mind races. You are haunted by nightmares, not of demons or ghosts, but of your own work. You dream of walls crumbling, of crooked pillars, of the mocking, disappointed face of Pharaoh. You wake up in a cold sweat, your heart pounding. The feeling of failure more real than the solid walls of your own bedroom. Your health begins to suffer. A constant, draining fatigue settles deep in your bones. Your appetite vanishes. The delicious food your servants prepare tastes like sand in your mouth. You lose weight. Your fine linen robes hang loosely on your frame. You consult a physician, a respected man who serves the court. He examines you, finds no sign of disease, and diagnoses you with a touch of melancholy or a disturbance of the heart-soul. He suggests you are working too hard. He prescribes rest and a potion made of honey and calming herbs. It does nothing. You can't sleep. You've lost your appetite. And you're constantly exhausted. The doctor says it's an imbalance of the humors. You're pretty sure the humor in question belongs to a very angry dead pharaoh. Your relationships with others fray. Your friend Amini tries to cheer you, to distract you with wine and conversation. But you are irritable and distant. You cannot explain the true source of your anxiety. To speak of the curse aloud would be to give it more power, to admit its reality to the world. And so you suffer in silence. Your isolation growing day by day. Even your household seems to be afflicted. A servant trips, shattering a valuable Mycenaean wine jug you had imported at great expense. Your favorite hunting dog, a fine, sleek animal, falls suddenly ill with a mysterious wasting sickness and dies within a week. The world is coming undone around you. You become a desperate seeker of signs. Your rational mind now a prisoner of paranoia. You begin to see omens in everything. A flock of crows landing on the roof of your house is a sign of impending doom. You find a snake shedding its skin in your garden and are paralyzed with fear. Unsure if it is a symbol of rebirth or a creature of the evil god Set. You begin paying small coins to street diviners to interpret your dreams. Their vague, ominous pronouncements only feeding your growing terror? The ancient Egyptian understanding of cause and effect, which has always seemed logical to you, now becomes a source of torment. Future historians will debate whether your people distinguished between natural and supernatural causes. You are living that confusion. Your mind knows that wood can rot, that ropes can fray, that men can make mistakes. But your heart, poisoned by the knowledge of Pentu's curse, can no longer accept coincidence. Every misfortune, no matter how small or logical, is now filtered through the lens of your fear. You see them not as random events, but as a coordinated campaign of magical aggression, a series of precisely aimed arrows fired from the darkness of an ancient tomb. One day, you see Pentu himself at the Temple of Karnak. He is there overseeing his own smaller project. He sees you across the great courtyard. He does not gloat. He does not smile. He simply meets your gaze with a look of cold, placid neutrality. It is the look of a craftsman inspecting his work, of a fowler checking his traps. He knows his magic is working, and he knows that you know. He turns away, his calm confidence a more profound threat than any open hostility. The final blow to your professional life comes not as a dramatic collapse, but as a quiet, bureaucratic judgment. The delays at your construction site, the ruined materials, the cost overruns, they have not gone unnoticed. You are summoned to the office of the vizier's chief aide. The aide is a cold, impassive man. He does not speak of curses or bad luck. He speaks of budgets and schedules. "Master scribe," he says, his voice devoid of emotion as he consults a papyrus roll. The reports from your project have been disappointing. There are concerns about your management. Pharaoh's glory cannot be delayed by incompetence. He informs you that you are being officially censured. You are not being removed from the project, not yet. To do so would cause too great a scandal. But you are being put on notice. A more senior overseer will be assigned to assist you. It is a public humiliation, a vote of no confidence. You walk away from the vizier's office in a daze. Your golden age, which began in that very same complex of offices just a few months ago, has now officially ended. Your reputation is in tatters. The whispers of misfortune have become an official reprimand. You return to your villa. It now feels like a hollow shell, its luxury a mockery of your inner turmoil. You sit alone in your study, staring at the grand plans on your table. You understand now, with a stark and terrifying clarity, that you cannot fight this with better management. You cannot fix this with more careful calculations. You are not fighting a problem of engineering or logistics. You are fighting a ghost. And to fight a ghost, you do not need an architect. You need a magician. Your professional life is in ruins. Your reputation shattered. The sense of creeping doom has followed you from the grand colonnades of Karnak to the quiet halls of your own villa. The physician's diagnosis of melancholy is a bitter joke. You know this sickness is not born of your own mind. It is an attack, a deliberate and sustained assault by an unseen enemy. You realize that fighting this with logic and diligence is like trying to build a dam against the tide with dry sand? To fight magic, you must understand magic. The great temples, with their grand, public rituals, are not the place to seek this knowledge. The high priests of Amun-Ra are concerned with the cosmic balance, with the fate of Egypt itself, not with the personal curse of a disgraced architect. You need a different kind of expert, one who deals in the personal, practical, and often dark arts that govern the lives of individuals. Your friend Amini, his face etched with concern for you, becomes your guide into this other world through his contacts among the artisans and lower-level functionaries of Thebes. He hears of a man, an old, retired lector priest named Ippur, who lives in a modest house in the dusty back streets of the city. Ippur, Amini explains, was once a master scribe in the Per-Ankh, the House of Life, the sacred scriptorium of the Temple of Thoth. He spent his life studying and copying the great books of magic, the texts that hold the secrets of the universe. Now, in his old age, he sometimes imparts his knowledge to those in great need. For a price, you go to him. Ippur's home is small and dark, every surface covered in precarious stacks of papyrus rolls. The air smells of old parchment and a dozen strange, dried herbs. He is ancient, his skin like time-worn leather, but his eyes are sharp and intelligent. He listens to your story of your success, of Pentu's rivalry, of the figurine, and of the slow, deliberate unraveling of your life without interruption. When you are finished, he nods slowly. You have been bitten by a serpent from a forgotten tomb, he says, his voice a dry rustle. To find the antidote, you must first understand the nature of venom. You seek to learn of Heka, and so, your true education begins. Ippur teaches you that what you call magic is not a violation of the natural order. It is the natural order. Heka, he explains, is the primordial power that the creator god, be it Ra or Ptah or Amun, used to bring the universe into being. It is the energy of creation itself. The gods live and rule through Heka, Ippur tells you, his eyes gleaming with intellectual fire. Pharaoh, the living Horus, commands with Heka, and we, the scribes who can read the sacred words, we can learn to wield a small measure of it as well. You used to study architectural plans. Now you study papyri that have titles like the spell for repelling a hostile spirit and the incantation for the warding off of night terrors. Your career has taken a sharp turn into the paranormal. He teaches you the fundamental principles. The first and most important is the power of the word, and specifically, the power of a name. To know the Ren, the true name of a thing, is to have power over it. He says, this is why the gods have many secret names. It is why every spell must be spoken with perfect pronunciation. A single misplaced syllable can render an incantation useless. Or worse, cause it to turn upon the speaker. The secret to Egyptian magic is knowing the true name of things. If you know a demon's true name, you have power over it. It's like finding out its secret, embarrassing childhood nickname. He unrolls a papyrus, a copy of a magical text he made in his youth. He shows you the spells, written in the sacred hieroglyphs. He points out the recurring phrases, the powerful verbal formulas that are the engines of the magic. He explains that by reciting the spell, the speaker is not just asking for help, they are identifying themselves with a god, temporarily taking on their power to command reality. Next, he teaches you the principle of sympathetic magic. The logic behind the figurine Pentu used, every image holds a piece of the soul of what it represents. He explains, This is why we create statues of the gods for our temples and Shabti figurines for our tombs. The image provides a home for the spirit, but this principle can be used for evil. By creating your effigy and linking it to you with a thread from your robe, your rival created a bridge. Any harm he did to that clay doll, he did to you. He also explains the power of analogy. Much of Egyptian magic, he says, is based on aligning a personal problem with a cosmic one. If a child is burned, he says, the magician will recite the story of how the infant god Horus was burned by his enemies, and how his mother, the great goddess Isis, used her magic to heal him. By reciting the myth, the magician makes the child into Horus and himself into Isis. He draws upon the power of that original. Divine healing to cure the child. You do not ask the gods for help, you become them. Your mind reels with this new understanding. Heka is not a collection of superstitious tricks. It is a complex, coherent system. A kind of spiritual technology for manipulating the fabric of reality. The debate that scholars of the future will have about whether magic and religion were separate things would seem absurd to Ipwer. He would say that the high priest chanting a hymn to praise Amun-Ra in the great temple of Karnak is using Heka, and a humble man whispering a spell to cure a scorpion sting is also using Heka. The only difference is the scale and the purpose. It is all the same power, but understanding the logic of the curse is not the same as fighting it. You need weapons. Ipwer tells you that before you can devise a counterspell. You must first diagnose the precise nature of the attack. You must identify the specific forces that Pentu has marshaled against you. He performs a simple divination. He fills a bowl with clean water and pours a thin layer of fine green oil on its surface. He has you stare into the bowl, into the swirling patterns of the oil, while he chants a low, hypnotic incantation. He asks you to speak of the images you see. You see fleeting, disturbing visions, a crumbling stone, a dry riverbed, the face of a forgotten, scowling king. Ipwer nods grimly. The curse is an attack on all your foundations. He says, it aims to dry up the river of your fortune, to turn your works to dust, and it is fueled by the angry spirit of a king. This is a powerful and well-constructed curse. He begins to teach you the first simple steps of defense. He gives you a protective formula, a short chant to be recited every morning when you wake and every evening before you sleep. It is a prayer that places you under the protection of Ra, asking him to light your path and burn away any shadows that cling to you. He also teaches you how to create a simple protective amulet. He gives you a flat, smooth potsherd, an ostracon, and shows you how to inscribe it. On one side, you draw the Ujat, the powerful, protective eye of Horus. On the other side, you write the names of several protective deities, fierce and powerful beings like Bez, the grotesque but benevolent dwarf god who guards households, and Tauret, the terrifying hippopotamus goddess who protects mothers and children. A demon who sees the face of Bez will flee in terror. Ipwer says, carry this with you always. It is a small shield, but a shield nonetheless. You create the amulet. Your scribe's hand, once used for architectural plans. Now carefully drawing the magical eye and the names of monstrous gods. You feel a small flicker of agency, of power. You are no longer just a helpless victim waiting for the next misfortune. You are now a student of the secret arts, beginning to forge your own defenses. This new knowledge, however, comes at a price. The world now seems far more dangerous. You see the potential for magical attack everywhere. A passing glance from a stranger. A dead bird on your doorstep. A strange shape in the clouds, everything is a potential omen. The rational world you once inhabited has been completely replaced by a world humming with invisible energies and secret wars. You spend several weeks with Ipwer, absorbing as much of his knowledge as you can. You learn more than you ever thought possible about the intricate logic of Heka. You have learned how to protect yourself in small ways. but you both know it is not enough. Your simple amulet and morning prayers are like a wooden fence against the power of a summoned Pharaoh. One evening, Ipwer looks at you with a grave expression. I have taught you the grammar of Heka, he says. But you are facing a master of the art to fight him. You need more than a student's knowledge. You need a specialist, a warrior. He tells you that understanding the principles is one thing, but wielding them in a direct confrontation with a powerful curse is another. I am a scholar, Ipwer says. My power is in the library. You need a man whose power is in the world. A man who deals with the consequences of dark magic every day. He gives you a name. Not a priest from one of the great temples, but a man who lives across the river, on the west bank, in the village of the tomb workers. Deir el Medina. His name is Marin, Ipwer says. He is known as a healer of scorpion stings and a charmer of serpents. But his true skill is in unbinding the curses of men. He is a master of counterspells. Go to him. Tell him I sent you. He will know what to do. Your time as a student of theory is over. You have a new sense of purpose. You are no longer just trying to understand your affliction. You are now actively seeking a cure. You thank the old lector priest for the dangerous, vital knowledge he has given you, and prepare to cross the river to the land of the dead in search of a man who can fight for your life, armed with the theoretical knowledge of Heka and the name of a specialist. You leave the scholarly world of the East Bank behind. Your quest for a cure now takes you across the great, life-giving Nile, to the West Bank, the land of the setting sun, the domain of Osiris, the realm of the dead, for most citizens of Thebes. This is a place you only visit for a funeral, or for one of the great festivals honoring the ancestors. For you, it is a journey of desperate hope. The ferry carries you from the noisy, bustling shore of the living to the quiet, solemn shore of the necropolis, where the great mortuary temples of past pharaohs stand as silent stone sentinels. Your destination is the village of Deir el Medina. It is a unique place in all of Egypt, a self-contained town nestled in a stark desert valley, hidden from view. This is Set Mat, the place of truth. It is the home of the royal tomb builders, the community of highly skilled artisans, craftsmen, and scribes who cut and decorate the secret tombs in the Valley of the Kings. It is a village that lives and breathes the business of death, and it is known to be a place of powerful, practical folk magic, far from the grand dogmas of Karnak. You are now in a company town where the only company is death. The residents are very good at their jobs, which is a little unnerving. You find the man Ipwer sent you to see. His name is Marin. He is not a priest in a clean linen robe. He is a foreman of the stonemasons, a man whose skin is weathered by the sun and whose hands are calloused and strong. He is also the village's Karep Serket, its scorpion charmer, a master of the spells and remedies needed to combat the most dangerous creatures of the desert. This gives him immense authority. A man who can command the servants of the goddess Serket is a man who understands how to deal with venoms, both natural and supernatural. Your new magical consultant is a scorpion charmer. His primary skill is convincing venomous arachnids not to kill you. You figure that if he can negotiate with a scorpion, he can probably handle your rival's curse. You are brought to his simple, clean mud brick home. You tell him your story, from the promotion to the curse, from the shattered stone to the shattered reputation. You explain the diagnosis of the lector priest Ipwer, that the spirit of a vengeful pharaoh is being used as the weapon against you. Marin listens without expression, his sharp eyes studying you intently. When you are finished, he simply nods. The scholar Ipwer sees the shape of the demon in his books, he says, his voice rough, like stone grating on stone. I see its tracks in the world. I see them on you. He walks around you, sniffing the air. Yes, there is the stale scent of a closed tomb clinging to you. You are not sick with a disease of the body. You are being eaten by another man's will. Your ka is being devoured. Can you help me? You ask, your voice tight with desperation. To charm a scorpion, you must first respect its poison. He says, a curse like this, a royal curse, cannot be simply brushed aside like a spider web. It is a great weight that has been placed upon your spirit. We must first make your spirit strong enough to bear it, and then strong enough to cast it off. He tells you that the first step is purification. Your spirit, weakened by fear and misfortune, has become muddy, an easy home for the curse's influence. That evening, he leads you to a secluded spot in the cliffs behind the village, under the light of the moon. He has you strip and bathe in a basin of cool water mixed with natron, the same natural salt that is used to purify the bodies of the dead for mummification. As the salty water washes over you, you feel as if a layer of grime, not of the body, but of the soul, is being stripped away. While you wash, Marin chants in a low, powerful voice. The words are ancient, invoking the gods of purification and protection. He then brings forth a series of small, strange implements from a leather bag, a tiny adze, a small chisel, a pointed tool. You recognize them with a jolt. They are miniature versions of the tools used in the opening of the mouth ceremony. The ritual performed on a mummy to magically reanimate its senses so it can eat, drink, and speak in the afterlife. The curse has sought to close your mouth so you cannot defend yourself. Marin says, it has clouded your eyes so you cannot see the path. It has stopped your ears so you cannot hear the warnings of the gods. We must open them again. He performs the ritual on you, the living man. He touches your lips with the adze, your eyes, your ears, all while chanting the ancient formulas. I open your mouth for you. He chants, I open your eyes for you. I open your ears for you. It is a bizarre and deeply unnerving experience. It feels less like a spiritual awakening and more like a very, very weird dental appointment. Yet, as he works, you feel a strange clarity settling over your mind. The fog of despair that has clouded your thoughts for months seems to thin. Marin's magic is that of the practical man. It is a direct, tangible thing. He represents a different side of a debate that future Egyptologists will have. Are the tomb builders of Deir el-Medina simply state employees? Or does their intimate, lifelong work with the sacred tombs give them a special priestly status? Looking at Marin, you see the answer. He is a working man, but he is also a priest of the threshold, a guardian whose knowledge comes not just from texts, but from a life spent on the border between the living and the dead. After the rituals are complete, you return to the small room Marin has given you in his home. That night, for the first time in months, you sleep without nightmares. You awaken feeling not refreshed, your body is still weak, but calm. The constant, gnawing anxiety in the pit of your stomach has eased. It is the first tangible proof that this man's magic, his Heka, is real. It is the first glimmer of genuine hope. You spend several days with Marin. He teaches you small, practical acts of self-defense. He shows you how to scratch a protective symbol of the goddess Isis on a potsherd and place it under your sleeping mat. He gives you a string of beads made from faience and carnelian and tells you to wear it. Explaining the protective properties of each color and stone, he is not teaching you to be a magician. He is teaching you how to build your own spiritual armor. One evening, as you are sharing a simple meal of bread, onions, and beer, Marin grows serious. The purification is the easy part, he says. We have cleaned the filth from your spirit, but the source of the filth remains. The curse is still upon you. He tells you that your rival, Pentu, a man skilled in his own right, will likely sense your resistance. He will feel that his magic is being blocked. Marin says, he will not relent. He will redouble his efforts. He will call upon the angry king's spirit with greater force. The serpent is not dead. We have merely annoyed it. It will strike back, and it will strike harder. You feel a chill run down your spine, undoing the warmth of the food and the hope you had begun to nurture. Do not be afraid, Marin says, his eyes firm. We have cleaned your house, but the serpent is still coiled outside your door. Now, we must prepare you to fight it. He explains that the coming days will be a test. The curse will attack your life with renewed vigor. You must endure it. And while you endure, you must, with his guidance, prepare for the final confrontation, a great ritual of reversal, a magical battle where you will not just shield yourself, but actively turn the curse back upon its sender. Your search for a cure has found its champion. But the true battle, the one that will determine your fate, has only just begun. You return to your work on the East Bank with a fragile, guarded hope rekindled in your heart. You carry the simple protective amulet Marin helped you create. Its presence in a fold of your robe, a small, secret comfort. You recite the morning prayers to Ra that Ipur taught you. Your voice quiet but firm. For a few days. It seems to work. The small, frustrating mishaps at the construction site cease. The cloud of anxiety that has followed you for months seems to part. Just a little. You begin to believe you can fight this. Marin's warning, however, proves prophetic. The serpent, feeling its prey begin to struggle, decides to stop toying with you and begins to truly constrict. The catastrophe, when it comes, is swift and absolute. It happens at the great pylon you were restoring. A massive stone lintel, weighing many tons, had been carefully raised into place just the week before, on this day, with dozens of workers swarming on the scaffolding below it. The great stone cracks. It does not fall. It simply breaks in two with a sound like a thunderclap. A deep, grinding groan of stone giving up its integrity. Panic erupts. The workers scream and scramble down the scaffolding, terrified that the entire structure will collapse. Miraculously, no one is killed, but several men are injured by falling debris. The project is thrown into chaos. The beautiful, newly placed lintel is now a ruined, gaping wound in the face of the temple. You stand there, staring up at the broken stone. The dust settling around you, and a cold numbness washes over you. This is no small accident. This is no rotten timber. This is an impossible event. A solid block of Aswan granite does not simply crack in the dry Theban air. This is a direct, undeniable, and public display of the power that is working against you. The blame falls on you, and it is immediate and crushing. You are formally relieved of your duties. The vizier himself signs the decree. An inquiry is launched, but it is a mere formality. The conclusion is foregone the young. Overambitious master of works made a critical error in his calculations, endangering the lives of his workers and desecrating the sacred temple. You have been officially disgraced. It's a very polite way of saying that you are now professionally radioactive, and no one wants to be in the same room as you and your cursed building projects. Within a week, Pentu, your bitter rival, is appointed as the new master of works. You see him at the temple, walking the site with a grave, concerned expression, pointing out your errors to the temple priests, shaking his head with false sympathy. He is fixing the very problems his own magic created. The audacity of it is almost as stunning as the curse itself. Your fall from grace is as swift as your rise was celebrated. In Thebes, success is a sign of divine favor. You're spectacular. Public failure is therefore seen as an undeniable sign that the gods have turned their faces from you. You are no longer just an incompetent architect. You are a man marked by divine displeasure, a source of spiritual contamination. Your powerful patrons, the nobles who once feted you, now refuse to receive you. Messengers sent to their villas are turned away at the gate. Even your friend Accompany is forced to distance himself. You see him in the market one day, and he looks at you with pity in his eyes before turning away. A gesture of self-preservation you cannot bring yourself to resent. To be associated with you now is to risk catching your same spiritual disease. You are an outcast, without your prestigious position and the immense salary that came with it. Your luxurious life evaporates. Your creditors, who were once so patient, now demand immediate payment. You are forced to sell your fine furniture, your imported wine jugs, your papyrus scrolls. Each sale is another piece of your old identity being stripped away. Finally, the inevitable day comes when you must sell your beautiful villa. You watch as a wealthy merchant, a man you once would have considered your inferior, inspects the courtyard pool and the painted walls with a proprietary air. You leave your home with nothing but a single bag of clothes and a handful of coins. You've traded your beautiful villa with its courtyard pool for a single cramped room in a noisy, crowded tenement building in the artisan's quarter. A room that smells of fish and regret. It's a significant downgrade in amenities. The curse, it seems, is not yet finished with you. You find a smashed red earthenware pot on the doorstep of your new, squalid room. It's a calling card. You know from your studies with Ipur that this is a form of execration magic. The ceremonial breaking of the red pot meant to break an enemy's power. Pentu is not just content with your ruin. He is actively ensuring you never rise again. You are plunged into a deep, dark despair. Marin's magic, the purification rituals, the protective amulets, they have all failed. The serpent has not just struck back, it has swallowed you whole, beaten and broken. You take what little money you have left and pay the ferryman to take you back across the river. Back to the West Bank. You must confront Marin, the man who gave you a hope that has now been so cruelly extinguished. You find him in his dusty workshop, calmly carving a small wooden charm. You burst in, your voice a torrent of grief and anger. You tell him everything: the broken lintel, the dismissal, the loss of your home, your friends, your name. Marin listens, his expression unchanging. He does not seem surprised. When you have finished, spent and breathless, he puts down his carving and looks at you. Good, he says simply. You stare at him, uncomprehending. Good, I have lost everything. Your magic failed. Did I not tell you the serpent would strike back? He says, his voice calm but firm. Did I not tell you the fever of the curse would rage most fiercely before it breaks? The power invoked against you is great. A simple amulet was never going to be enough. It was a test. A test, and you cry, I am ruined. You were ruined. Marin corrects you. You were ruined the moment your rival buried your name in the sand. All that has happened since the loss of your job, your wealth, your false friends, that is not the curse. That is the cure. He stands and puts a hand on your shoulder. Listen to me. That man you were the master of works, the celebrated architect, the owner of a fine villa, was already a dead man. The curse had tied itself to his success, to his pride, to his very name. To kill the curse, the man it was tied to had to die first. You had to be stripped of all those things. You had to lose everything, so that there is nothing left for the curse to feed on. You look at your own calloused hands. You're simple in a worn robe. You have nothing. No job, no money, no status. You think you have nothing left, Marin says, as if reading your thoughts. But you are wrong. You now have the one thing you did not have before freedom. You have no reputation to protect. You have no wealth to lose. You have been burned down to the foundation. Now, from that foundation, we can begin to build a fortress. Now, you are ready to truly fight. His words are a strange and powerful medicine. The anger drains out of you, replaced by a new, terrifying, and yet liberating understanding. Your ruin was not a failure of the magic. It was a necessary stage of it, a controlled demolition of a life that was already condemned. You are at the absolute bottom. You are a penniless outcast. Your name a byword for failure. You have nothing left in the world but the clothes on your back, the simple protective charm around your neck, and the trust of this strange, wise man. You look at Marin, your eyes clear for the first time in months. What do we do now? You ask. A slow, fierce smile spreads across his face. Now, he says, we go scorpion hunting. Marin's words. Now, we go scorpion hunting. Hang in the air of his small, dusty workshop. You soon learn he does not mean it literally. The scorpion is a creature of the hidden places. He explains that evening, his face illuminated by the flickering oil lamp. It strikes from the darkness. The poison that afflicts you is the same. It was brewed in a dark shrine and strikes from the unseen world. To fight it. We must first see it clearly. We must hunt the venom to its source. The time for diagnosis by simple divination is over. Marin tells you that to identify a spirit of this magnitude, a more powerful ritual is needed, one that requires a place of immense power. It cannot be done here. In the land of the living, it must be done in the necropolis, the great city of the dead that sprawls across the West Bank. That night, under a sky full of cold, brilliant stars. He leads you out of the village of Deir el Medina. You walk past the simple tombs of the artisans and into the vast, silent landscape of the Theban necropolis. The air is unnaturally still, the silence broken only by the crunch of your own sandals on the sand and the distant, mournful cry of a jackal. You are walking through the backyards of dead kings and queens, a sacred and forbidden place for any living man to be at this hour. Your healer has decided the best place to perform a highly sensitive magical ritual is a forbidden, ghost-filled valley in the middle of the night. You can't help but feel that a well-lit room would have been a fine alternative. Marin finds a secluded spot, a small, flat-bottomed valley surrounded by towering cliffs into which the tombs of forgotten nobles have been cut. He takes a bag of powdered natron, the sacred salt of purification, and draws a large, protective circle in the sand around you. Inside the circle, he lights a small brazier of incense. The scent is heavy and strange. Unlike the sweet temple incenses you are used to, this will keep the lesser spirits, the hungry ghosts, at bay. He says, but its smoke will attract the attention of the greater powers. We must be careful. He then prepares a small cup of a dark, fragrant liquid. This is brewed from the blue lotus flower, he explains. The cup of dreams. It will loosen your ka from your body, allowing you to see into the duat, the spirit world. I will be your anchor. I will guide you. Do not be afraid. He says it will open your eyes to the spirit world. It tastes like swamp water and makes the rocks start to hum. The spiritual benefits are, as yet, unclear. You drink the bitter tea. Marin begins to chant, a low, monotonous, and deeply hypnotic incantation. The rhythm of his voice, the heavy scent of the incense, and the strange, spreading warmth of the blue lotus brew begin to work on you. The sharp edges of the cliffs seem to soften. The stars above begin to swirl. Your consciousness, which has been a hard, tight knot of fear for months, begins to unravel. Your vision blurs, then clears. But you are no longer in the desert valley. You are floating, disembodied in the darkness above Thebes. An invisible thread seems to be pulling you, guiding you. You are drawn towards a place you know well, the small, ruined shrine at the edge of the necropolis, the place your friend Amani told you Pentu had visited. You drift through the stone walls as if they were smoke. And you see him. You see a vision of Pentu on that night, his face a mask of bitter, hateful concentration. He is not just burying an effigy, he is performing a full cursing ritual. You see him holding a wax figurine that you recognize with a sickening lurch is meant to be you. He has tied it with threads from your own robe. You hear his voice, a venomous whisper, as he recites the words of the curse, damning your name, your work, your health, your very soul. You watch as he takes a bronze pin and drives it through the heart of the wax figure before burying it in the sand. The vision shifts. The thread that pulls you is now connected to the buried figurine. It pulls you down, past the sand, past the rock, into a dark, spiritual underworld, and you feel the power that Pentu was calling upon. The power that answered his hateful prayer. A presence emerges from the darkness. It is the Ka of a king. But he is not one of the glorious, benevolent pharaohs like Thutmose or Amenhotep. This spirit is ancient, dark, and filled with a cold. Eternal rage, his regalia is archaic, from a long-forgotten dynasty. His eyes burn with the fury of a man who was betrayed and murdered, whose name was erased from the monuments, a king who was denied a proper journey to the afterlife. Future historians will debate the historicity of such figures. Kings branded as heretics, their names hacked from the stone. But you know, in this moment, that their spirits are very real and very angry. This is the ultimate tool for a curse, not a celebrated god, but a damned and resentful one. A king whose spirit is trapped and eager to lash out at the world of the living. The spirit turns its burning gaze upon you. It knows you are there. It recognizes you as the target designated by Pentu. And in your mind, you hear its name. A name like Scraping Stone, Achanre, Achanre the Bitter, Achanre the Betrayed. This is the divine assassin that has been hunting you. This is your true foe. The terror of the vision is so absolute that you scream, and the sound brings you crashing back into your own body. You are sitting in the protective circle, the desert air cold on your sweat-drenched skin, shivering uncontrollably. Marin is holding your shoulders, his face grim. You are back. He says, "What did you see?" Your teeth chattering. You tell him. You describe Pentu's ritual, and you whisper the name, Achanre. Marin's face tightens. "I know the legends," he says. A king of the old times, a heretic who declared war on the priests of Amun. He was murdered in his own palace, and his successor ordered his name to be erased from every monument in the land. A damnatio memoriae, to ensure he would suffer the second death. But his spirit was too strong, too full of rage to be so easily erased. It has lingered in the shadows of the necropolis for centuries, a well of poison waiting for someone foolish enough to dip into it. Pentu was very clever and very, very foolish. The good news is, the vision worked and you've identified the ancient, evil ghost king who is trying to ruin your life. The bad news is, you've identified the ancient, evil ghost king who is trying to ruin your life. Now we know his name, Marin says, his voice hard as flint. And to know a spirit's name is to have a handle for the whip. But this is not a spirit we can command or bind ourselves. It is the Ka of a pharaoh, a god on earth. No matter how disgraced, to fight him would be like a man trying to fight the Nile in full flood. You look at him, the last of your hope threatening to crumble. Then what can we do? Marin looks up at the sky, at the constellation of Orion, which the Egyptians see as the celestial image of the god Osiris. A mortal cannot fight a god, he says, but a god can. You cannot fight the angry ghost of a king on your own. You need a champion, a protector, a power greater than the one that has been sent against you. As the first light of dawn begins to touch the eastern cliffs, you and Marin erase the protective circle and walk back towards the village of the living. You are physically drained, psychically battered, but you are armed with a clarity you have not had since your ordeal began. The vague, shadowy dread that has haunted you has been replaced by a specific, named adversary. You know who is trying to kill you. The diagnostic phase of your cure is over. Now, the preparation for battle must begin. Your next task, Marin tells you, is to formally and humbly petition one of the great gods of Egypt to accept your case, to become your divine champion and fight on your behalf in the unseen world. You are about to become a petitioner in a celestial court, pleading for the intervention of a god, the knowledge of your true foe. The ghost of the heretic king Accompany is a cold comfort. It gives your terror a name, but it is a name of immense and ancient power. Back in Marin's simple house on the West Bank, you are filled with a new kind of despair. How can I fight a pharaoh, you ask, your voice a ragged whisper. Even a dead one. You cannot, Marin says bluntly, his practical nature a splash of cold water. A man cannot fight a god. A common soldier cannot challenge a king in his throne room. It is a battle of mismatched power. To fight the Ka of a king, you must have the Ka of a greater king on your side. He begins to lay out a new strategy. It is not one of defense, but of allegiance. We must petition a great and living God to be your champion, he explains. We must take your case to the celestial court and ask for a powerful patron to represent you. He discusses the options as if planning a military campaign. We could petition Thoth, he muses, for you are a scribe, and he is the lord of knowledge and magic. His wisdom could untangle the curse. He shakes his head. But Thoth is a god of arbitration, not of war. His methods are subtle. The curse of a king requires a more forceful response. What about Isis, you ask, thinking of the great mother goddess, whose magic was so powerful it brought her murdered husband Osiris back to life. The magic of Isis is mighty? Marin agrees. Her protection is a shield of impenetrable love. But her magic is for healing, for defending, for nurturing. The serpent is already in your house. We do not need a better lock for the door. We need a mongoose to go in and kill it. He looks at you, his eyes intense. No, we need a warrior. We need a rightful king to fight a false one. We need a god whose entire story is one of righteous vengeance against a usurper who brought chaos to the land. We need Horus, the son of Isis, the falcon who sits on the throne. His logic is perfect. Horus, who battled his uncle Set to reclaim the throne of his father. Osiris is the ultimate symbol of legitimate power triumphing over chaotic evil. His power as a living king is greater than the lingering, resentful power of a dead heretic. Choosing a divine champion, you realize, is like choosing a lawyer for a supernatural court case. You want the one with the best reputation for smiting his enemies, gaining the favor of a god as mighty as Horus. However, is no simple matter. You cannot just whisper a prayer and hope he hears you, Marin warns. You are a man of no status now. You are asking a great king to take notice of a beggar's plea. You must approach him with the proper respect, with the correct offerings, and at the correct place. Your poverty is a major obstacle. You have spent your last coins simply surviving. Marin, seeing your despair, places a hand on your shoulder. The gods do not measure an offering by its weight in gold, he says. They measure it by the weight of its sacrifice. You will give what little you have. I will provide the rest. My own honor as a magician is now tied to yours. And so, you begin to gather the offerings. You sell the last fine linen robe you own to purchase a small, beautifully carved figurine of a falcon, the sacred animal of Horus. Marin provides the high-quality incense, the blue lotus flowers, and the loaves of white bread that are appropriate for a divine offering. The ritual cannot be performed in a local shrine. We must go to the heart of his power, Marin declares. And so, you begin a new journey, a pilgrimage south along the Nile to the great city of Edfu, home to the most magnificent and perfectly preserved temple dedicated to Horus in all of Egypt. The temple at Edfu is a fortress of faith. Its great stone pylon, a massive gateway carved with colossal images of Pharaoh smiting his enemies before Horus, looms over the landscape as you pass through the gate and into the temple's great courtyard. You feel a sense of immense power and cosmic order. The air is cool and silent, a stark contrast to the heat and chaos of the world outside. You are a common man, and you are not permitted to enter the inner sanctums of the temple. But Marin, through his knowledge of temple rites, leads you to a public altar in the great courtyard. First, he has you perform a ritual purification, washing your hands and face in the waters of the temple's sacred lake. Then, the ritual of petition begins. You arrange your humble offerings before the altar. Marin unrolls a fresh sheet of papyrus. On it, he has written out your plea. A letter to the great god Horus. It is a practice you know from your scribal training, a formal petition, part legal document and part prayer. Left at a temple for the god's consideration, he hands the scroll to you. You must read it, he says. Your voice must make the appeal. Speak not with the fear of a victim, but with the righteous anger of a man who has been wronged. Let the god hear the strength of your ka. You take the papyrus, your hands tremble, but your voice, when you begin to read, is surprisingly strong. It rings out in the vast, silent courtyard. You recount the story of your life, your service to Pharaoh, your unjust downfall. You name your enemy, Pentu, and you name the dark power he has invoked, the bitter, unavenged spirit of the heretic Akenre. You frame your plea not as a personal problem, but as an offense against the divine order, against Ma'at. O great Horus, son of Isis, rightful king. You read, a usurper spirit, a king of chaos, has entered the lands of the living to destroy a loyal servant of the living Pharaoh. Who is your image on earth, I ask you? The divine falcon, the protector of the righteous, to be my champion. Strike down this serpent from a forgotten age. Restore the balance that has been broken. When you finish, the silence that follows is profound. You roll up the papyrus scroll and place it reverently on the altar. Your part is done. The petition has been submitted. Now, you must wait for a sign. You and Marin do not leave the temple. You find a quiet corner of the courtyard and begin a vigil of prayer and fasting. A day passes, then another. The temple goes through its daily rhythms of chanting and offerings. You feel a growing despair. Perhaps your offering was too small. Perhaps your voice was not strong enough. Perhaps the god has not heard you. On the afternoon of the second day, as you are lost in a state of weary meditation, a shadow falls over you. You look up, circling high above the temple courtyard. High in the brilliant blue sky is a falcon. It hangs in the air for a long moment, its movements effortless. Then, it dives. It plummets from the sky like a stone. You see its target, a snake that had been slithering across the hot flagstones of the courtyard. The falcon strikes the snake with breathtaking speed and precision, its talons sinking into the reptile's body. It rises again into the air, the snake writhing helplessly in its grasp, and flies away towards the sun. You stare, stunned. Marin puts a hand on your arm. His face is filled with a triumphant awe. The sign has been given, he whispers. The falcon has taken the serpent. Horus has heard your prayer. He has accepted your case. He will be your champion. You've been waiting for a sign from the great god Horus. You were hoping for something a little less ambiguous. Like maybe a giant flaming bird, but you'll take what you can get. A wave of relief so powerful it makes you dizzy washes over you. The terror that has been your constant companion for so long finally begins to recede, replaced by a new and powerful feeling. You are no longer alone in this fight. The greatest warrior of the gods is now on your side. You and Marin return to Thebes, your journey no longer a flight of despair, but a mission of grim purpose. The fear is still there, but it is now overshadowed by the power of your new divine ally. The petition has been answered. Marin says as your boat docks once more at the west bank. Now we must prepare for the final battle. We will use Pentu's own magic against him. We will perform a great ritual of reversal. A magical snare that will catch the serpent he has sent and turn its venom back upon him. Horus has agreed to be our sword. Now, we must forge it. The days leading up to the ritual are a period of intense and quiet preparation. The chosen night is the last night of the lunar month, the night of the new moon, when the darkness is most profound and the veil between the worlds is at its thinnest. It is a night for potent magic. Marin chooses the location with great care. It is an unused, undecorated tomb chapel, cut into the base of the Theban cliffs. It is a clean, sacred space that can be easily sealed. For 3 days prior, you and Marin purify yourselves with fasting and ritual washings. You are not just a client seeking a cure, you are a soldier preparing for battle. Your will, your focus, your purity, they are all weapons in the coming fight. Together, you prepare your magical arsenal. You take a lump of dark, impure wax, and with your own hands, you shape it into a crude effigy of a man. This is Pentu. You take clay from the banks of a stagnant canal, a place of sickness and decay, and you form another figure, this one in the archaic style of an ancient king. This is accompany. These are the targets of your counterattack. Marin spends 2 full days hunched over a fresh sheet of papyrus, his stylus flying. He is composing the great spell of reversal, a complex and powerful incantation drawing upon ancient texts from the House of Life. It is a weapon made of words, invoking the most secret and powerful names of Horus, commanding him to be your champion. On the appointed evening, you and Marin enter the tomb chapel. He seals the stone door from the inside with a mixture of mud and natron, enclosing you in absolute darkness and silence. He then lights 7 oil lamps, arranging them in a protective circle around you. The circle he draws on the floor is not just of salt. It is a complex diagram of powerful symbols, an impenetrable fortress of Heka. He will feel us, Marin says, his voice low in the enclosed space. The moment we begin, Pentu will know that his prey is fighting back. He will marshal his own power to crush us. We must be stronger. The ritual begins. Marin does not start with an attack, but with an invocation. He burns a special incense, its scent filling the small chamber, and begins a long, powerful chant, calling upon Horus. He calls him by his great names, Horus, son of Isis, Horus, the uniter of the 2 lands, Horus of the brilliant plumage, Horus, the great god, Lord of heaven. He is not just praying, he is summoning a champion, inviting the divine presence into the circle. The air in the tomb grows thick, heavy, charged with an immense unseen power. As the invocation reaches its peak, you feel it, a sudden, crushing pressure. A wave of profound coldness washes over you, and the flames of the 7 lamps flicker and dance wildly, as if in a strong wind. It is a psychic assault, the curse redoubling its efforts. Sensing your defiance, Marin does not flinch. He is here, he says grimly. Now we fight. He turns to the wax figurine of Pentu. He takes a long cord of red linen, symbolizing blood and power, and begins to expertly wrap it around the effigy, binding its arms to its sides, its legs together with each wrap. He chants a binding spell. I bind the hands of Pentu, so he cannot form new evil. I bind the feet of Pentu, so he cannot walk the path of wickedness. I bind the mouth of Pentu, so he cannot speak new curses. I bind the heart of Pentu, that his malice may be contained and turned to dust. Next, he takes the clay figure of the heretic king, Achanre. He places it on a flat stone and raises a small bronze hammer. He begins a formal denunciation, his voice ringing with power. O Achanre, the forgotten, the enemy of the gods, the king of chaos by the authority of Horus. The true king, your name is again struck from the records, your power is undone, your spirit is broken. With each phrase, he strikes the clay figure with the hammer. A crack appears, a limb breaks off. With a final great blow, he shatters the effigy into a dozen pieces. It is a symbolic destruction of the spiritual anchor of the curse. The Ghost King's power has been ritually annihilated. Now comes the final and most important act. Marin turns to you. He hands you the great papyrus scroll, the spell of reversal. The serpent has been decapitated, he says. Now you must command the body to devour itself. Read this. Read it with all the anger, all the pain, all the righteous fury that is in you. Your will is the final ingredient. You take the scroll. The hieroglyphs seem to glow in the lamplight. You begin to read. At first, your voice is a mere whisper, but it grows in strength and confidence with every word. The spell is a masterful piece of magical jurisprudence. It declares your innocence. It names Horus as your divine advocate, and it does not just ask for the curse to be lifted, it commands the malevolent energy, now untethered from its royal anchor, to return from whence it came, O poison brewed in darkness. Return to the cup that poured you, you chant, your voice ringing with power. O arrow fired in malice, return to the bow that shot you by the might of Horus. The hawk of the heavens, I command you turn back upon the one who sent you. Let him feast upon the bitterness he sowed for me. Let him be bound by the chains he forged for me. Let him be devoured by the darkness he unleashed as you speak the final words of power. The very atmosphere in the tomb seems to crackle. A powerful, unseen force builds in the small chamber. A pressure so intense it feels like you are at the bottom of the deepest ocean. The climax is sudden and violent. A single, furious gust of wind, coming from nowhere and everywhere at once. Tears through the chapel. It extinguishes all 7 lamps in an instant, plunging you into absolute, suffocating darkness. You hear a sharp crack, like a distant thunderclap. That seems to shake the very stone around you. And then, silence. A silence more profound than any you have ever known. The crushing weight you have carried on your soul for nearly a year. The constant, draining pressure of the curse is gone. It does not fade, it vanishes. It is as if a great, heavy cloak that you did not even realize you were wearing has been lifted from your shoulders. You feel light, empty, free. You sit in the darkness, gasping, your body trembling with the aftershock of the ritual. After a long moment, you hear the sound of Marin striking a flint. A single lamp is relit, its small, gentle flame a comforting beacon in the dark. Marin looks at you. He is pale and drenched in sweat, the ritual having taken a great toll on him as well. But his eyes are clear, and in their depths, you see a look of grim triumph. It is finished, he says, his voice a weary but satisfied rasp. The serpent has bitten its own tail. The curse is broken. You have been through a war fought not with bronze and wood, but with will and words. And you have won. You sit in the quiet of the sealed tomb chapel, the air now still and clean, and you feel the first true, untroubled peace you have known in what feels like a lifetime. You and Marin emerge from the tomb chapel into the cool, pre-dawn air of the necropolis. The darkness is absolute, but for the first time in a year it feels peaceful. Not menacing. You are utterly drained. Your body a hollow reed, but your spirit, which had been a cramped, terrified thing, now feels light and vast as the desert sky. The great, crushing weight is gone. You return to your small room in the artisan's village of Deir el Medina and fall into a deep, dreamless sleep that lasts for a full day and night. When you awaken, the world seems new. Its colors sharper, its sounds clearer, as if a veil has been lifted from your senses. The news travels across the river with the speed of a desert wind. On the very night of your ritual, your rival, the architect Pentu, was struck down by a sudden and violent illness. His servants found him in his chambers. Raving, his eyes wide with terror, he spoke of a vengeful king, of a great falcon tearing at his soul, a dark, bruise-like swelling, much like a plague bubo, appeared on his chest. Within hours, he was dead. There is no official inquiry. The physicians who examine his body whisper of a sudden corruption of the blood, but they have no explanation, but everyone else knows. The story of your public disgrace and Pentu's subsequent promotion was common knowledge in the circles of Thebes. Your sudden recovery and Pentu's bizarre. Swift demise are too perfectly timed to be a coincidence. It is clear that a great magical battle has been fought, and the gods have delivered their verdict. Divine justice. Ma'at has been restored. The serpent has indeed bitten its own tail. A few weeks later, a messenger from the vizier's court arrives at your humble dwelling. The message is simple. In light of Pentu's untimely death and your own miraculous recovery, which is now seen as a sign of divine favor, you are to be reinstated. Your old position as master of works on the Karnak chapels is yours again. Your villa, your titles, your wealth, all are to be restored to you. This is the moment you had dreamed of, the culmination of your struggle, a return to your former glory. But as you listen to the messenger, you feel nothing. No joy, no triumph. The ambition that once burned so brightly within you has been extinguished. Quenched by the terrible knowledge you have gained, you think of the world you would be returning to the petty jealousies of the court, the stress of deadlines and budgets, the constant struggle for prestige. It all seems like a child's game now. You have wrestled with the ghost of a Pharaoh. You have stood on the precipice of annihilation. The concerns of living men seem small and distant. You give the messenger your reply. You thank the vizier for his grace, but you must respectfully decline the honor. You will not be returning to your post. The messenger is stunned, but you are resolute. The man who wanted that life, the ambitious young architect, died somewhere in the darkness of the past year. You are someone else now, a survivor. Your story becomes a quiet legend in Thebes. You are no longer the disgraced architect. You are the man who was cursed and lived. People look at you differently in the streets. They no longer shun you, instead. They give you a wide berth, their eyes filled with a mixture of awe and fear. You are a man who is trafficked with gods and ghosts, and you carry the aura of that other world with you. You find you have no desire to return to the life of the East Bank. You choose to stay on the West Bank, in the quiet, dusty village of the tomb builders. You dedicate your new life to the knowledge that saved you. You become a student, first of Marin, then of the old scholar Ipuwer, and eventually their colleague. Your great scribal skill, once used to design buildings of stone, is now used for a different kind of construction. You work with Ipuwer to copy and preserve the ancient magical texts from the House of Life, ensuring the fragile papyri do not crumble to dust. You work with Marin, using your clear, precise hand to write out the formulas for protective amulets and healing spells for the common people of the village. You are bridging the gap between the high theology of the lector priests and the practical. Everyday magic of a man like Marin? Historians might debate the social role of magicians in your society, whether they were feared outcasts or respected specialists. You come to understand that they were both, and that you have become one of them. You are a respected man, a master scribe whose knowledge of counterspells and protective rites is sought out by those in need. Your life is no longer one of wealth or public glory, but it has a depth and a purpose your old life never did. Years later, you make one final journey. You travel alone to the edge of the necropolis, to the small, ruined shrine of the heretic king, Accompany. The place feels different now. The air is no longer thick with malice. It is just a quiet, lonely place of crumbling stone. You feel no fear, only a strange, weary pity for the angry, forgotten king whose spirit was used as a weapon. You pour a simple offering of cool, clear water onto the sand before the shrine. It is not an act of worship. It is a gesture of peace, a quiet declaration that the cycle of vengeance is over. You have found your own kind of peace. You are a man forever scarred by his journey into the heart of darkness. But a scar is a sign that a wound has healed. Your youthful ambition is gone, replaced by a profound and humbling respect for the vast, unseen world and the delicate balance that governs it. And so, your life takes on a new rhythm, one of quiet study and service. A life lived in the long shadow of the Theban hills. The story of your curse, once a terrifying and all-consuming reality, becomes a memory, a strange and distant tale from a former life. The ambitious young man who dreamed of building monuments of stone is gone. In his place is a wiser man who now builds shields of knowledge for others. The great cycles of Egypt continue. Pharaohs live and die. Temples are built. The Nile floods and recedes. And your life, once shattered, is made whole again, not by returning to what was lost, but by embracing what was found. The terror of the curse has faded, leaving behind not a void, but a quiet, enduring strength. Let the memory of that ancient battle now recede. The whispers of the curse are silent. The fury of the ghost king is pacified. The incense smoke has cleared. All that is left is the deep peace of the Egyptian night, the cool desert air, and the silent, watchful stars. The struggle is over. The survivor is at rest. And now, in the safety of your own time, in the comfort of your own bed, you too can let the battles of the day fade into a peaceful and untroubled sleep.